Okay, hello everyone. Just waiting for a few more attendees as they are joining in the lobby, and we will then very quickly get started. Practically a full screen for me at the moment that I can see. And yeah, let's get ourselves started. So first of all, big thank you to everyone for joining today, and welcome to our Food Waste Matters webinar. It is a continuation of our series and the first one that we're doing in 2025. And this one is particularly timely as it is Food Waste Action Week as well. So in today's webinar, we're going to be covering the new food waste segregation rules and what you need to know about those. And then we'll be talking about how we can then take one small further step from segregation to redirection, and how good quality surplus food can then be given to people living in food insecurity. And then we are also joined by a couple of experts and champions from the food industry who will also talk about their own journeys in sustainability, and especially around food waste. So today's formats, we have a number of panelists who will be covering the subject matter, and then at the end we'll be doing Q&As as well. We have the opportunity for people to post any questions they may have in the chat. And if you spot a particularly good question or one that you were thinking that you also wanted to ask as well, you have the function to upvote that as well. So when we come to the Q&A at the end, if we are inundated, we can prioritize the questions that have the most upvotes and priority. And also,
sorry, Paul, I'm just going to interrupt. Just if guys can use the Q&A functionality for the questions rather than in the chat, because that's got the upvote option. So everyone should be able to see the Q&A across the top of their screen.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hannah. And we also know that we have a broad range of attendees here as well. So if you are an expert in any particular field, you can also add your views in the Q&A, answer questions, or in the chat function as well. The webinar is going to be recorded, so if you're only able to stay for the panelist talk section, you can always catch up on the Q&A at a later time. And showing why she's worth it, big thank you to Hannah Marsland for doing all the behind the scenes and technical work today. So hopefully myself and the other panelists can flow in nicely. So let's get kicked off with introductions, which I know no one likes doing, so I'll go first with that one. So my name is Paul Baines, and I am Supply Manager at the Felix Project. So we are a surplus food rescue and redistribution charity, working predominantly with the food industry, but also working with non-food industry partners as well. We support about 1,200 smaller community organisations across London, and last year we redistributed the equivalent of 38 million meals, which was 16,000 tonnes of great quality surplus food. In my role, I work closely with our key food supplier partners, maximising their sustainability and environmental impact. And to give an indication of that, last year we prevented nearly 18,000 tonnes of embedded CO2 equivalent from that food surplus. And next I'll hand over to Sian from RAP for her intro.
Yes, good morning. My name's Sian. I'm a specialist in the food team at RAP, and RAP is a global environmental NGO. And we work towards solutions around products from purchase right through to consumption, and solutions to create a better food system and achieve circular economy. So my work primarily, in fact, I do a lot of work around citizen and behaviour change, but also work across the supply chain, have done some work with the redistribution sector on the guidance, and just, great to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Sian. Adrian, do you want to introduce yourself next, please?
Yes, good morning, everybody. So I'm Adrian McCaffrey, and I'm the HR and Facilities Manager for Mustard Foods, based in sunny Wimbledon. I use the term facilities loosely, but I think that means that you get involved in absolutely everything across a food production site. So just a very quick summary. We supply various products to the casual dining sector. So many restaurants with various products such as sauces, marinades, chilies and soups and so forth. And I think sort of post-COVID, we've also set up a retail and a wholesale side of our business. The fact that we're called Mustard Foods doesn't have so much relevant to the actual condiment of mustard, but the Mustard Group was formed way back in 1974, which was a catering business. And then in 2007, the food sector was born. Yeah, so we're here today, and we've obviously got through COVID and Brexit and everything else. And yeah, it's we've got quite a unique story, which I'll divulge on later on about our food waste journey. And that's who we are. So good morning, everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adrian. And Mo, did you want to give yourself an introduction as well, please?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Mo Patel. I head up waste and donations across the Amazon UK and European business, specifically focusing on our grocery business within those geographies. Again, Amazon, as you all know, tends to deliver parcels, but is also involved in a bunch of other fun stuff. And one of the things we're really getting after recently is the food and grocery business. So yeah, a bit about me. Back to you, Paul.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mo. So we'll get kicked off with the panelist section of the webinar. And first up is going to be Sian. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. So yes, good morning. It's great to be here. As mentioned by Paul, so this is sort of thinking about the upcoming changes in legislation with businesses that are required now to segregate and manage their food waste. I'm going to outline the requirements for simpler recycling and share some support and guidance available to businesses to implement this. I'll also talk through how this can be harnessed as an opportunity for businesses in terms of monitoring waste and preventative action you can take, and also the potential to recognise and maximise the redistribution of any surpluses that may arise. So just a bit of scene setting, you know, we've got a huge challenge ahead of us in terms of food waste, with nearly a quarter of all the food produced in the UK lost or wasted every year, including 6.4 million tonnes of perfectly good edible food. And it's costing businesses money and contributing to climate change, accounting for up to 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The UK Food and Drink Pact is a voluntary commitment that unites organisations across the supply chain, as well as trade bodies, local authorities and charities, led by WRAP, with the intention to future-proof our business and provide solutions for more sustainable food system, with some key targets within that to kind of meet the challenge that we face with food waste in the UK and globally. So to just give a bit of an overview, so the changes in resource and waste strategy for England, they've been worked on in government and supported by WRAP since 2018 and probably way before then. But it really has culminated in this landmark bill of the Environment Act, which was published in 2021. And this provided detail of what collectors, local authorities and businesses are responsible for doing. So by March, all businesses with more than 9 full-time employees are required to have waste collection in place with separated waste streams, with small and micro firms with less than 10 full-time employees, a deferred date of March 2027. And, you know, these reforms are looking to change the landscape of waste in the UK, changing 65% of waste in England into recyclable material. It's one of the biggest set of reforms, but is done with a view to these kind of range of benefits, including reducing the amount of waste going to landfill and incineration, and therefore reducing the carbon emissions and support net zero targets, providing an opportunity for more closed loop recycling and less production from raw materials, supporting the growth of the recycling industry and jobs, and lowering costs and the opportunity for efficiencies and resource management across different sectors. So this table just gives a kind of crude outline of the minimum collection service required across all materials. So you can see food in there. You can opt for greater segregation, and businesses can procure waste collectors that provide a service that suits their needs. So there's no minimum weight threshold for food waste in England, unlike in Scotland and Wales, where there's a 5 kilogram minimum weight threshold. But the collection frequency can be determined by the business according to how much is being generated. So although there are kind of broad benefits and objectives of the simpler recycling legislation, we are aware of challenges that business face in implementing this requirement, and particularly around those for small businesses. So those include things like awareness of who is obligated to do what, some practical and logistical challenges, including things like space and kind of the support that businesses required in the transition. And so we've launched the Business of Recycling website. It was launched in 2023, and it is a dedicated hub which has guidance, information and tools to support businesses in this transition. It's also got sector-specific guidance that's built on insights gathered from businesses about what type of support would be useful. It includes dedicated areas for different sectors, including retail, wholesale, offices, hospitality, health and social care, education, food manufacturing, and facilities management. And it's sort of structured around a 5-step guide, sort of understanding why your business needs to recycle, understanding your business waste. So there's a waste calculator tool in there, as well as sort of guidance on setting up recycling across your business. It also includes a number of communication resources to support effective engagement, be that with your customers or staff. And there are also case studies and frequently asked questions in there. So how can we use segregation of food waste to better manage and reduce? So the Target Measure Act principles is it's a proven framework for impact on waste reduction. And those key 3 steps are outlined on the screen. So adopting a reduction target, recommended to align with broad UK food waste reduction targets of around 50% by 2030. So it's aligned with those Sustainable Development Goal targets. Measuring food waste in a consistent way is a really important action to allow you to pinpoint inefficiencies and identify areas for improvement and cost savings. So separating your food waste for collection is a great opportunity to capture this data on waste arising in the business, if not already doing so. And it can help you to identify what's edible, what's inedible waste, as well as reasons for discarding, such as spoilage, or what is potential surplus. And then in terms of ACT, so there are, this is around kind of using that data-driven insights around waste in your business to take action to reduce waste and implement effective ways to prevent and sort of management solutions, or how you can work with within your business operation, but also across supply chain, or in terms of helping customers or citizens to waste less. So these actions should be consistent with the food waste hierarchy. And, you know, I know Paul's going to kind of go into this a little bit more later on, but primarily preventing food surplus and waste from being generated in the first place, but also ensuring that you are redistributing surplus food when it does arise. And so we've got a number of resources to support businesses through adopting these principles. And it includes things like measurement guidelines, toolkits, and sector-specific action lists to kind of indicate where the opportunity to take action arise. So through the Food and Drink Pact, we also work very closely with retailers, manufacturers, and hospitality, and with redistribution organisations to identify ways to increase the beneficial use of surplus food when it arises, and we sort of work within that group to remove barriers to surplus food redistribution, and we measure and report changes with an annual survey published each year. And you can see there, so some figures from the 2023 report that showed a further increase in food available for redistribution in 2023. So 191,000 tonnes of surplus being received by redistribution organisations, equating to 456 million meals each year. But despite the positive progress, there's still work to be done, and we're always looking to find ways to identify surplus that might be suitable for redistribution. So we host a network of businesses and redistribution organisations, convening organisations to explore these ways of how we can work across redistribution organisations and retailers and food producers. There is also a framework for effective redistribution partnerships, and we have a recently updated guidance around the handling of surplus, so labelling, handling of surplus for food safety, and kind of making that guidance practical in terms of applying it with working practices in businesses. And just to kind of summarise that guidance in particular, which is developed and updated in conjunction with the Food Standards Agency, DEFRA, and the redistribution working group members, including Felix, and we also have some representative trade associations collaborate on this document. And so that guidance provides up-to-date legislative and product marking changes, but also kind of addresses some of the challenges over handling and redistribution of surplus food, with a particular focus on handling products with the best before date. So yeah, some of the kind of key changes and information within that guidance listed on the screen there. And just finally, so, you know, businesses are required to segregate, and the segregation of food waste combined with actions from measurement we've seen have led to cost and food savings and redistribution of surplus. And there are some case studies available on the RAP website, which you might find useful, particularly where those have adopted that Target Measure Act approach and seen benefits. So yeah, would encourage you to sort of take a look at that in your own time. And I think we're going to hold for questions at the end, so I will stop sharing screen.
Brilliant, thank you, Sian. Really useful information there as well. And again, if anyone's got any questions around what Sian has put, use the Q&A function in the chat, and we'll be doing upvotes on any really great questions so that we prioritise those at the end as well. So next we are going to have myself talking about how this new food waste segregation legislation, and how we can then take the one small step further to separate the good quality edible surplus from what is food waste, and how that can then be used to support those living in food insecurity as well. So let me do my bit of presenting. And let me share my screen so you can all see it as well. So we're talking about what is the food insecurity problem. So some stats here: 56% of working families in London had to turn to a food support service in the last year because of the rising cost of living, and that is increasing year on year as well. So 14% of working families in London had just £20 a week to spend on food after all other bills had been covered. And what really impacts here as well is it's not just the fact that people are going hungry, it creates a vicious cycle. There are, parents stressed about how they feed their children. We know there are also some shocking stats around children going to school hungry and how that impacts their learning. And it then becomes hard to break out of the food insecurity and poverty cycle as well. Okay, next slide. So wonderful quote here, which I'm not going to read out, but what I find this really kind of sells home is who the Felix Project supports. So we do support some food banks and pantry type charities, but the vast majority of the community organisations that we support are using food in addition to support other great social causes. So it could be trying to tackle isolation within communities, getting people training and guidance, helping people with mental health issues or learning difficulties, rehabilitation. So the food really underpins a lot of the social good work that we do. And without that food supplied, those charities and community organisations would have less resources to really focus on what their key social justice goals are as well. And then now looking at the food waste problem, again, we can see that there is a lot of food wasted across the UK each year. 6.4 million tonnes of edible food is wasted each year. And of that wasted food, only 1% is currently rescued by food distribution charities. So we really hope that this new legislation can be a springboard to increase that number and do even more great work. In addition, the food waste contributes to the greenhouse gas emissions. 8 to 10% of greenhouse gases come globally from food disposal. So by preventing food waste, by redirecting it, we are then preventing more and more of that CO2 and embedded CO2 equivalent from being released and affecting climate change. And now Sian mentioned before as well, we had the food and material drink hierarchy. So this is the ideal situation that we want to do. So what we really want is as much as possible to be prevented from going to waste. And that is what's really going to make the most impact in terms of environmental impact and not having those greenhouse gases equivalent released. And then working down the pyramid, ideally we want redistribution of any surplus to go to people. Anything that can't go to people can go to animal feed. So that's the prevention, that's the green zone that we really want to be working in. And then working down the pyramid, we've got recycling, recovery, and finally disposal as well, which is something we want to work towards. So this is the ideal pyramid. Looking at the stats that we shared before as well, in reality, this is actually how it looks like. So again, only 1% of food waste in the UK is being distributed to people. So we'd really like to change that and bring more and more of these in the red and amber sections back up into the green areas. Talking next about what can be rescued. So the pie chart kind of shows the spread of what Felix rescues and redistributes. And then on the side there, we've got all the different situations that can lead to surplus food happening. There's a lot across businesses. It happens, but we can deal with it. And one I really want to highlight, and again Sian talked about before, was the food that's past its best before date. So in the UK we have use by dates, which are to do with food safety. Anything that's past its use by date we don't rescue or redistribute. That is to do with food safety. But we also have food with a best before date. So that is around food quality. So food that's past its best before date can still be perfectly fine to eat. for weeks, months, and often even years afterwards, depending on the type of food and the packaging. And again, as Sian mentioned, charities in the food distribution sector, so Felix Project, Fair Share, City Harvest, work with RAP to update a set of older guidelines to give us a great framework on how we can rescue more items that are in the best before category. And also, again, that's those guidelines were endorsed by the FSA, by DEFRA, and also bodies within the food industry as well. And then just to finish off for me in terms of, how can food surplus, edible food surplus, be rescued? So for the Felix Project, we have 4 depots across London. We really kind of work to solve a logistics problem. So we work very closely with the food industry, work the same standards of food safety as the food industry. And we can rescue food across the chilled, ambient, frozen and fresh produce sectors as well. So that is where the lion's share of what we do happens. We also have our green scheme, which operates in central London and Canary Wharf. This is a point-to-point collection service where volunteers have insulated courier bags, rescue from a food business, and then deliver it super local to perhaps homeless shelters or women refuges, anything close to those sites as well. And then the last bit, and this might be in particular interest to anyone who's not from a food business and perhaps has small amounts of good quality edible surplus food that they can't use, our Felix Connect platform, so an online platform where businesses can put details of food they have available. That is then messaged out across about 800 of the smaller charities that we support, and they will then come and collect it at a time and date that suits you. And again, really environmentally friendly. It's not being done with the Felix vans, super local as well, so you might make some great connections with charities there as well. So hopefully that inspires you, gives some great food for thought as well, and we can then take that further step of not just segregating our food waste, but also getting it rescued as well and used for good causes. Hopefully that has been inspiring. Again, any questions, please do use the Q&A functionality. And next, I believe we're moving on to Mo, who's going to talk about their sustainability journey.
Awesome, thanks, Paul. Unfortunately, everyone, I haven't got any slides, so the 64 people on the call will just have to look at my face for the next 5 minutes. Like I said, I look after waste and donations for the Amazon business. So I guess I'm going to just take 5 to 10 minutes of your time to really just talk through what we do, and hopefully at the end of it, just give you some confidence that you can sort of make a bigger change than what legislation is asking you to do. And hopefully then just give you some tangible steps as well of what you can do to start your journey, and whether that's cost, whether that's an ethical impact, or whether it's an environmental impact as well. What I won't do, but happy to pick up in the Q&A or offline, is talk through the granularity of the operation. And I think it's really important that every organization on this call is different in size and scale. So what works for us might not necessarily work for you. And it's really important that we use the resources like RAP and Felix to help you with that. So I guess we've been donating excess food or surplus food for many years now. So I guess just to if you take nothing else away from my next 5 minutes, is it can be done, and it can be done using partners like Felix as well. So we've been donating anything from close to expired product to product that is excess stock or is just no longer required in the business, and everything in between. I guess what I would advise as you go on this journey or want to go on this journey is, how do you turn your business to think about the first question, which is, can we donate it? And I think that's really, really important. That can you change that mindset of putting it in the bin or putting it in a different bin versus actually, do we have the option to donate it? And I think once you can change that mindset, it does make a huge, huge difference. So like I said, you have to find solutions that are easy, and no matter the size of the organization, you have to find a solution that is easy. And if it's easy, it will work for you, it will be sustainable, and it will just give you that peace of mind that it's happening in the right way. So what we've decided to do is we donate daily from our distribution centres across the UK and in Europe, and from our physical format stores in London as well. And like Paul said, it's all categories, and I think that's really important for us. So we've gone from donating chilled product to ambient product and then to frozen products as well. And I think what's important with the journey that I'm telling you about is you don't need to get here straight away. And I think that's really critical, is we've got this opportunity to change what we're doing. That doesn't mean you have to get to 100 by the end of next month. It's what can you do, what small steps can you take to just make that difference? And I think that's really, really important. And I guess finding partners like Felix are crucial. What you'll find, again, talking from experience, you'll find a lot of charities and a lot of redistribution partners that can take certain categories. So ambient tends to be the easiest one because it's the lowest risk from a food safety point of view. What you need to try and do is find partners that can maybe support your business specifically. So if you're producing a lot of fresh food, actually someone like a Felix could support you with that, whereas a certain charity might not be able to support you with that. So again, it's tailoring what you need and then finding the right partner for you. And I think don't be afraid to use Felix. I say that in the most respectful way, but if you're unsure of what you can donate, what you can't donate, drop them a line, drop any charity a line. I'm not saying Paul will come to 500 organizations next week, but I'm sure between the team, they will come and visit your site, they'll come and help you and give you that guidance, because their number one priority is to save surplus food from going into the bin. So yeah, that's what we do operationally. I guess, how can you make the change? The biggest thing I would say is how do you get more people on board within your organization? And I think a big thing for us is cost. As everyone knows, costs make the world go around, they make businesses go around as well. So a key thing for me is, what costs can you leverage to drive this benefit going forward? Now, we all know that the cost of a general waste bin is there. The cost of a food bin is also there as well. Actually, you might, by donating product, only reduce one bin a week. However, you times that by 52 weeks and all of a sudden you've got a cost benefit there. So don't feel like one bin is too small to donate, or 5 trays is too small to donate. It all adds up. It all adds up over 52 weeks, over 10 years. It makes an astronomical impact. So don't be afraid to start small. And I think that's what we did, is we looked at our commercial impact from a waste management point of view, and then said, okay, if we donate X, Y, and Z, which is the right thing to do anyway, what impact would that have on our waste costs? So I think if you do want to look at that, especially if you want to get other people in your organization on board who aren't as understanding, then that's always a good place to start. And then finding the right partner, like I've said. So if you do work with someone like a Felix, again, don't be afraid to start small. Like if you just want to start donating ambient 1 day a week, start there at least. You don't have to go 7 days a week. You don't have to go all categories. You could literally say, I've got these 10 cereal boxes a week and I want to donate them. Actually have that conversation with Felix. Make your business feel comfortable first with the change in process and the change in operation. And then build and say, actually, ambient works really well. Can we move to fresh? Can we move to chilled? Can we move to frozen? And it can grow gradually, which is what we did across the Amazon estate as well. I think what's exciting about when you do donate food surplus is the impact you have on the communities. And I think what's really great, I keep saying Felix, but obviously there's many partners across the UK, whether that's City Harvest, whether it's businesses in the north or whether it's businesses anywhere, and charities that can support. What's really exciting about this is the impact reports and the data you get back. And I think that's really powerful. We focus on the cost and the waste donation, the waste diversion cost, but actually what Felix can share with you is the number of meals your donations generate. Now that's super, super powerful when it comes to sharing that story within your business. And I guess one of the key learnings we've taken at Amazon is if you're able to take that story and amplify it across your business, you get more stakeholders on board, you get more opportunities to donate product as well. And I think that's really powerful. So the data you get is really powerful from an ethical point of view and from a just doing the right thing point of view as well. Like I said, the segregation that's coming through in legislation, that's just step one. I think while you've got that opportunity, like I said, don't be afraid to jump off a couple of steps and try and donate, which I think is really powerful. Anaerobic digestion will always be around. It's better than landfill, it's better than EFW, but actually, like Paul shared on his slide, actually we should try and use that product for what it was intended for. And while we might not sell it, it was intended for human consumption. And if you have that mindset of actually, while I haven't sold it, so I've lost margin on it, or while I've not got it to where it needs to get to, I've still got it for its true overarching purpose, which is actually a human is able to have that product. And the impact it makes, I think, again, another great bit of advice I'd give anyone on this call is go and visit City Harvest, go and visit Felix, and understand the story they work on, understand their logistics network. It will fill you with confidence. I think a lot of people are always nervous about doing something like this and moving towards something that you've never done, and actually putting it in the bin is very easy. But actually, if you go and see Felix, you go and see how they operate, you go and see the charities and partners they support, it does really reinforce that journey and will give you confidence that you're doing the right thing as well. So like I said, that's sort of what we do, how we do it, and the benefit of what we really do. In terms of the decision tree, Sian said, look, there's great sort of resources on the RAP website that you can use. So don't feel like you need to invest a huge amount of labor hours into creating a process specifically for you from scratch. Use the resources that RAP have, use the resources that Felix has as well, leverage them straight away. And then very quickly, like I said, we try and have a mindset of, can we donate first? Anything we can't donate, like the legislation is showing, we segregate and then send to AD. Again, our journey is still going. We're not where we want to be as well. And actually, there's certain product that we can't donate for human consumption that we need to consider giving to animal feed as well. So that's something we need to do as well. So look, I'm not saying you're going to move mountains straight away, but I guess if you're going to take anything away from this call today is it can be done, and don't be afraid to give it a go, because it's always a two-way door decision. You can always try it, and if it doesn't work, you can try it differently, or you can tweak it, or you can just put it into AD. But I would genuinely say the impact it has on local communities. And what's really great about Felix is they work with, I think, 1,000 partners across London. You can go and see that. You can go and see the impact it has. You can see the food being delivered in. You can see the communities that come. And it's really thought-provoking. And given the cost of living crisis in the UK and the other challenges we have, actually, if we can make a small positional change in our operation to donate food for human consumption, I think the benefits are just astronomical. So yeah, hopefully I've covered something relevant for everyone on the call. Paul, I'll hand back to you. Like I said, any Q&A after or any more granularity, happy to take offline.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mo. Yeah, super relevant, super insightful as well, and hopefully gives people some idea of what their own sustainability journey could look like, and also what the improvement in that journey could look like as well. So now for our last panelist today, it's Adrian from Mustard Food. So Adrian, going to hand over to you next.
Thank you very much, Paul. Saving the best till last. Good morning, everybody. And it was really interesting to sort of listen to those previous speakers and the information that was provided and statistics. I think it sort of gives us an obligation that we need to do a lot more. And thanks for the opportunity that you've given me to sort of share our story at Mustard Foods and what we do here and the challenges that we've had previously. Now, when I joined the business, and just following on from the introduction this morning, so I'm the HR and facilities manager. So one of my responsibilities was to oversee the food waste streams, manage and oversee, and make sure that, you know, we did what we should be doing for the environment. So way back in 2017, it was interesting because we engaged with a company called ReFood, who would come here once a week, and what they would do is they would collect our food waste and take it away. Now, the story behind ReFood, and then following on from that, we joined with bio collectors, is that they transform our food into energy and fertilizer for local farms. And we thought, you know, at the time, we thought that was an amazing story. But as things evolved, you know, we had a light bulb moment, and we thought to ourselves, well, hang on a minute. Some of this food that we're disposing of, this surplus food, is more than edible, and it's way within shelf life. So we thought to ourselves, well, look, I think we need to do something else, in the sense that maybe potentially providing this for people who actually need it. So as time moved on, it became really, really interesting, because I decided myself to reach out to local charities, one of them being the Brixton Soup Kitchen, and a couple of community hubs, to offer them some of our restaurant grade product as surplus to provide sort of meals for homeless people. And it was something we're very, very proud of. Now, when I say surplus food, that doesn't mean it's you know, it's been rejected for certain reasons. It may just be for consistency reasons, or even human error. Maybe we've put an ingredient in that we shouldn't have done, or whatever, but it's more than edible. So as time moved on, we felt as if we had an obligation to do something with this food that was edible. So we reached out to some local charities. I mean, I think I've got a fascinating story where even one of them came to site to pick up. I was standing close by with 25 boxes of product, and he turned up on a push bike. And bless him, he managed to sort of fill a couple of carrier bags and take away some of our products. So that's the infancy of how our sort of food waste journey started. And as it evolved, we found City Harvest. And I think prior to COVID, we regularly supplied City Harvest with some of our surplus product. And they would come here sort of every fortnight or every month, depending on the volume. And they would collect some of our product and take that away, and provide you know, meals for homeless people. And I think that, you know, the chefs we were very popular with, because our product really just needed to cut open a bag and heat it up and add it with some rice and pasta, and you know, away you go. So it's quite an easy process for them. So as time moved on, and obviously COVID and Brexit and everything else, since then the volumes dropped. So we weren't sort of providing much product for City Harvest at the time. But then last year we engaged with Felix. And you know, it's incredible, because the journey with Felix has given us a real peace of mind that the product that we make in terms of surplus is not only going to a good cause, but it's been looked after in terms of a safety perspective, because a majority of the products that we provide to the casual dining sector, or through our retail and wholesale sites, a majority of that product is frozen. So therefore, they reassured us that they could collect it in frozen vehicles and then take it to their hubs that have plenty of frozen accessibility. So that was quite heartwarming for us, because we wanted to make sure that in terms of, you know, protecting our business, that we did things right. You know, since working with Felix since last year, you know, it makes us all feel sort of good within ourselves that the product is safe, it's been dispatched safely, it's been looked after safely, and again, it's going to a good cause. So, you know, it's quite a unique story way back from 2016 when I joined the business to where we are now. And I think last year, you know, we provided some of our lovely spicy pumpkin soup around the sort of Halloween time, in sort of a pallet form that Felix took away, and some other products since then. And we'll continue to work with Felix, you know, with the peace of mind that they look after us. And the structure is pretty incredible. So, you know, that's in summary what we do with our food waste. And you know, looking back at some of those statistics that were discussed by previous speakers, it makes me feel that maybe we do need to do more But I think what we're doing now is quite positive, and long may that continue. I think bio collectors who come here once a week to take our food waste are quite upset because they're not obviously taking away as much as they used to. But you know, I think in terms of doing our bit for providing meals for people who really need it, especially, you know, in today's climate where we've got rising fuel costs and ingredients costs and everything else, there's real challenges. So the fact that we believe that we're doing our bit is crucial, and it's something that we're really proud of. So yeah, I think I've covered it in terms of what we do, yeah, please, if anyone's got any questions about what we do and how we do it, by all means, happy to get in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adrian. That's, again, really insightful, and hopefully get some questions going as well. So yes, that is the panelist part of our webinar done, and we'll now move on to the Q&A section. So I might be asking my colleague Hannah for a bit of support here. We've got a questions and answer section. I'm doing a quick refresh, and we can look at some of the questions that got the most upvotes as well. So I'll kick one off. We've got one about from Hannah Carmichael. How would a business go about putting a one-off post on the Felix Connect platform, and what is Connect's current geographic reach? So one for myself, so panelists can have a little breathe. So the Felix Connect platform, an online platform, businesses, whether food businesses or non-food businesses, go onto the website portal, input details of what they have available, just a brief description of the food. I think we said there's a maximum of 500 kgs on that platform. You'll put in your details, which day you would like it collected, which time slot you'd like it collected. We normally say give it a minimum of 24 hours. That gives the smaller charity times to get themselves ready to collect, and then give them a collection window that's within your own operating hours, so they can come to your site, to your office, wherever it might be. And then Connect's current geographic reach. So Felix Project works across London, the Greater London area, across all the boroughs, and out of the 1,200 smaller community organisations that we support, about 700 to 800 are on that Felix Connect platform. So you might find that there is someone super local to you as well. That's been in place for just over a year, and we found it really beneficial. Like I said before, it means we haven't got to drive there in a van. Our vans are switching to electric, but some still are operating in diesel. So the environmental impact of working small and working locally, it really does add up in the end. So Hannah, I hope that answers your question. I'm going to refresh again. We have a question from Lizzie Short. This one is for Sian. So Sian, get ready. What advice would you have for a food business that feels concerned about liability when donating surplus?
Thanks, Lizzie. So, I mean, as a food business that handles, prepares or distributes food, or any sort of degree of handling food, have to, of course, be aware of any legal responsibility and comply with the relevant food legislation. And in terms of when we were engaging with the FSA on the update to the guidance document, ultimately any activity needs to maintain those food safety management system principles. And we've got this redistribution guidance together that kind of gives some indication and kind of specific with different food products, the kinds of assessments that will support those kind of safety questions. But ultimately, I guess it's ensuring that you have those safety management systems in place when handling those different types of food products. I guess in addition, seeking and querying the requirements with your authority. If you're unsure about the handling of certain products, then that's always a route. Another thing that I think has come off the back of the redistribution guidance update is that the sector, the redistribution sector, want to work together to share those kind of good practice, working principles and working practices around the handling of different food types. So absolutely see it as something for the sector to also continue working together, as the landscape of food is changing all the time. So continue to work together to try and work through any particular challenges or questions that you have around particular products.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sian, on that one. Adrian and Mo, was there anything you wanted to chip in as well on that question?
No, I think that was quite detailed, and yeah, Sian explained that pretty well. So nothing to add from me.
Brilliant. Okay, let me scroll through. Next on the upvote list, we have Kat Graham, and Kat is asking how much of an issue is pre-packed groceries versus loose commodities. Where does this impact food waste before it reaches consumers? Sian, I'm thinking that might be one for you as well, but again, Mo and Adrian, please do chip in if you've got some thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can start off. I mean, it's the kind of basis of and key theme through Food Waste Action Week is around encourage the supply and the purchase of more loose products, and it's particularly when thinking about fresh produce. So WRAP carried out some research that was published in 2022, and it was sort of investigating that relationship between plastic packaging and fresh produce. And it sort of highlighted that there's significant potential to reduce food waste, primarily by enabling people to buy what they need, but also you have that additional benefit of reduced plastic packaging, and increasing sort of the amount of fresh produce items that are sold loose. I mean, to use a kind of stat from that research, if simply apples, bananas and potatoes were available loose and sold loose, around 60,000 tonnes of food waste could be saved. And of course, it has significant carbon savings too, through the reduced plastic and waste combined. So, I mean, at WRAP, we're always thinking about the policy drivers, the kind of working with supply chain to enable the sale of fresh produce loose, but also in supporting and guiding citizens in making those choices in their purchases where available. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are any particular examples of maybe non-fresh produce that anyone would be able to pick up on, but yeah.
Great, thanks, Sian. Again, Mo and Adrian, any input, feel free to chip in. If not, I will look for another question in the chat. So we have another question from Kat Graham, and this has actually been answered by someone in the chat as well. So Kat was asking, how feasible is it to track the number of hungry constituents for each MP? And if there's a monthly, quarterly index for hunger, could it help focus minds? And thanks to Tringong in the chat, who shared a link to the Trussell Trust website as well, who've got publications on hunger in the UK. So again, just sort of showing that there is loads of information out there, whether that is information produced by WRAP, websites for the Felix Project and other food distribution charities, and also the Trussell Trust as well. I did spot a question that was aimed at probably one for more Mo and Adrian as well. So this is from Matthew Gray, and they're asking, how do you convince a company of the benefits to their business of donating food over wasting it?
Interesting. I think rather than wasting it, I think what's key is the products that we produce, and just sort of touching on the packaging. We use recyclable plastic, we use recyclable cardboard and everything else. So our products come into pouches, in 2 kilogram pouches, but we have a development team here. So any product that is rejected for whatever reason is still tasted by our development team to make sure it's obviously edible before we actually dispose of it. As far as we're concerned, as long as it's within the shelf life, then there's no actual reason to sort of just waste it. So therefore, we would give it a timeline in terms of providing it to the likes of Felix or City Harvest, whoever that may be, before we then decide to then waste the product if it's not taken for charity. So that's how we operate. So we give everything a timeline in terms of how we manage our systems. So.
Brilliant, thanks, Adrian. Mo, any thoughts from yourself on that one as well?
I guess, yeah, I agree with Adrian. The biggest thing, like to Matthew's question, is like if you do have a business that is sort of set in its ways, like I said, cost. Like if you're going to start somewhere, like what's the cost benefit? I think there's a message in the chat where they've worked with Felix for a while now, and actually they've seen a huge reduction in their waste management cost. So I think if you do have a business that is not truly understanding of the social benefits or the ethical benefits, then actually start with cost. And how I would do that is if you're unsure on how to do it, is just look at the number of bins you've got. Let's say for AD going forward, you've got 5 bins, and you do a rough tally and say, I'm going to put 50% of this to donations quite easily. You can then quite easily top up what your costs are and what your cost benefit is. So yeah, Matthew, if you are struggling to get some cut through, definitely have a business case that has some cost built into it. You'll be surprised how quickly people then say yes.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adrian and Mo, on that one. Right, we've got a few minutes left, so let's pick up the next questions from Andy Evans. So one for the speakers from Amazon and Mustard. And Andy says the Environmental Act has been billed as one of the biggest ever reforms. As a result of these legislative changes, how much extra food do you think you'll be donating from next month, and maybe quote a percentage? So that's very much putting you on the spot, and appreciate that you guys donate anyway, but perhaps you give an indication of what businesses in general could do with the new legislation.
Start, Richard, or? Okay, I'll jump in. I think each month, I mean, I sort of look at it in terms of kilograms. Our sort of varies, and it's around the sort of production, because our production is quite seasonal. So I would sort of suggest that each time we provide some food for charity, we're talking maybe, I think, it could be anything between 360 kilograms or maybe even 50 to 100 kilograms. So, I think evolving from what we used to do with our food waste to now, I think, we're probably talking around about, on average, about 150 to 200 kilos a month. We actually provide in, and do you know what? It's easy to sort of sit here and say, well, why are you wasting so much food? But in terms of what we do here at Mustard, it's quite a unique operation where there's so many people involved in the operation that you're always going to have a human error factor built in, and or a consistency issue or whatever it may be, because in terms of the quality of our product from start to finish, it has to be obviously exactly the same. So I would sort of suggest that's the sort of amount that we would be providing for the charities each month. Some months might be less, some months might be more, but yeah.
And I think also for Mustard and Amazon, very much on the sustainability journey already. What we hope the new Environmental Act, it will be a springboard for more and more businesses to get involved, both food businesses and non-food businesses as well. And again, also reflecting on Adrian's comments about volatility. Food surplus can be incredibly hard to predict. It's not something that businesses want, and we have certain sectors that we work with. So the UK growing season, so farmers and growers, there'll be much more surplus available from them during the summer months than there will be during the winter months. We also work on a very ad hoc basis. So although there are businesses that we collect surplus from on a regular basis, so it could be daily or weekly, there can also be ad hoc things that come in as well. On the slide that I shared earlier, we talked about seasonal food. So we always talk about, we joke about in the food distribution sector that we get all the Christmas stuff in January and February. We get the Easter eggs in May and June. So there is a lot of volatility here as well. So it's not always easy to predict those things. Okay, we're coming up to time. So it's 11:30. I will wrap things up from there. No pun intended there, Sian. Thank you so much to our wonderful panelists, to Sian, to Mo, and to Adrian. Thank you to everyone who has joined today, participated in the chat. I hope it's been super informative for you. We have obviously the recording that will be made available, and all that wonderful information that Sian shared earlier, and what's been shared in the chat as well. So thank you so much everyone for your time, and there will be details of the next webinar in the series coming up soon, so please do keep an eye out for that. But other than that, have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Brilliant.
everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity.